Everybody, I'm Hill Harper, and you're listening to Five Factor Authentication, a podcast about our constantly evolving relationship with technology. Brought to you by Norton. Today's show is all about social media and making it profitable. And today's guest knows just how to empower creators to do just that and thrive on these platforms. Isaac Hayes III is here to talk to us about how creators can thrive in this ever-shifting platform. Isaac is an American record producer, voice actor, and entrepreneur who has lent his voice to characters in commercials for McDonald's, American Airlines, Cadillac, the characters on Brood Witch for the animated television adult cartoon Aqua Teen Hunger Force, one of my favorites. But he is most known for his work in the music industry. Isaac operates a production company called Chart Control and a publishing company called Ike Father, Ike Son Music. And speaking of fathers, he is the son of the legendary Isaac Hayes. And my voice drops when I say that, because I think your voice, if you're a black man at least, your voice has to go down a few octaves if you say the name Isaac Hayes. One of the creative forces behind Southern soul music and the label Stax Records, and the voice of South Park's beloved character, Chef. Now, more recently, Isaac has made a big splash as an entrepreneur with an amazing platform called Fanbase, a multifaceted content app that allows users to monetize their posts. And today, he's here to share with us his wisdom, experience, and insight on how the industry is shifting and what this means for the future of artists, creators, and everybody out there, because in many ways in this new world, everybody is actually an artist and a creator of content. So Isaac Hayes III, thank you so much, brother, for joining me and joining us on Five Factor Authentication. I just want to jump right in and let's go first to your roots. Now, you grew up in a musical household. You know,
Yes,
your
indeed.
father is a legend. You named your music publishing company after him, and you know, so where along those lines, because Stax Records, you know, we associate that with like true vinyl, right? So where
Yeah.
did technology come into the picture for you?
Probably when I wanted to get in the music business as a producer myself. And so there's two things coming out of high school that I knew I wanted to do, which was either I wanted to be in the music business or I wanted to wind up doing something with computers, video games or something like that. And the irony that I'd had a 20-year career as a music producer and then found my way into the tech industry is kind of exactly what I thought I would be doing at 17, 18 years old. So tech has been part of my
So at
life.
17 or 18, was that aha moment when you knew that technology and tech would be like this powerful force in your life, or was it just something
Yeah.
that kind of pulled and you gravitated towards? Like did you really realize, whoa, this is it?
Not until I came up with the idea for Fanbase that I know that tech, like the tech industry, was something that I would be a part of, because I was so deep in the music industry for so long. I mean, spending 20 years in a business and having success at it and then being comfortable in that was kind of where I was. And then out of nowhere, you get this idea and it's like, I want to build an app. And I was like, I've never built an app before, but I want to build one. So that's where it kind of jarred. But I've had an affinity for technology. I'm one of those gadget junkies, like my father was. So I gotta have every iPhone. I gotta have the PlayStation 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, I'm that guy. So
You were a person who you always wanted to upgrade, and you were buying and staying on top of what's new. You weren't letting something just run till you ran into the ground. You were always updating and updating and updating.
Yeah, I want to know what's next. I want to know what the future holds is by way of technology and what we're able to do. So yeah, absolutely.
So let's dig deeper into that. Do you think that part of being able to anticipate what's next is also being able to keep up with what's out there and available? And if folks aren't actually using the new, you can't anticipate the new? Or so, for instance, what are you using right now? Like, what tech, as an example, is empowering your life right now that we could learn from and say, okay, I don't really, I'm surprised he uses that, or I didn't know that even existed. Or so, what tech is actually in today today's world for you, empowering your life?
I mean, well, from a business perspective, I use Slack. Like internally in our company, we use Slack to communicate, and it's just such an efficient tool because there's so many things that you can do. It's just intercompany communication, so we're always connected. You know, like the dev is connected with marketing, and marketing is connected with the executive team and the social team. So we're able to collaborate virtually in real time to do all the things that we need to do to make Fanbase run, and it's super, super efficient. So I love Slack. I know I didn't mean for this to be a Slack ad, but I love it. But it works very efficiently for what we're doing. And then
Hey, listen, you probably were an early investor. You know, we full disclosure. You know, I know you're invested in a lot of these startups. I know how you do.
no, not Slack. I wish I was, but I love it so much. But yeah, Slack is kind of where I'm at right now. And then I just like to see what new ways people are creating content or engaging with content. So like, you know, augmented reality, face filters, things that are very interactive in the way that people engage, that you know, do all wonderful sorts of things that help, you know, keep you enthralled and existing inside of social media.
So let's talk about that real quick. With augmented reality and folks creating, you have launched something very powerful that makes anybody the ability to be a creator, number one, and number two,
Yeah.
monetize that on platforms, audio, video, long form chat, you know, in many ways eliminating the gatekeepers and distribution. But now, how do you feel about this decentralization or the open access that a platform like yours provides, coming from a family where obviously the talent was the gatekeeper, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you couldn't write a song and record it, now it seems like everybody is using technology. Everybody thinks they're Aretha Franklin, right? Everybody
Right,
thinks they're
yeah.
Isaac Hayes and can record a song. What do you think about the use of technology that's in many ways opened it up for creators, but at the same time, the people with real talent, like the real, is it sort of shorten that window? Or what do you feel about that?
I think that technology is also eliminating jobs, right? I actually saw a video the other day, and I think it was like a McDonald's or a Wendy's. No, it was Steak and Shake, and they had no servers. It was all just keypads, and they just had people in the back cooking, and that was it. Like, you know, Steak and Shake is almost like a diner that used to have several, like you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 servers, and now those jobs are gone. And so, as technology replaces human beings, we also have to leverage technology to be able to use it to our own benefit. And so, the interconnectivity between individuals and in-app purchases and payments and billions of people on smartphones, I think is going to change the game, because it levels the playing field for anybody to be able to build a business. And that's what I love about Fanbase. Fanbase puts everybody in the position to turn themselves into their own business via subscription. And so to me, that's a game changer, because a lot of jobs are going to go away. I think I saw a video of a guy that he took a form of an Uber in Phoenix, Arizona. He went from Bank of America to Trader Joe's, and the car didn't have a driver. So it's just like, when you're seeing those little things that are happening right now, 10 years from now, there's not going to be anybody, you know, driving Ubers. Like, there's going to be driverless cars. There's going to be grocery stores where you just walk in and walk out with what you want. There's going to be so much automation that there are going to be a lot of people out of work. And if you don't have a way to offset that in some way, shape, or form, you know, we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
As a black tech founder myself, when we think about our community, how do you think something like Fanbase and the ability to create entrepreneurial activity impacts communities that have historically been, in many ways, underrepresented, or certainly underrepresented in tech? What is your thought about that?
It's game changing, because in my honest opinion, the economic engine of social media is black culture. And it is often appropriated and exploited to the benefit of others that are not African American people. And I explain that in a few ways, but the best way that I can explain it is a platform like TikTok. And I just don't believe that TikTok cares about black people. I don't think they can do anything to support any of the black creators that get frustrated on the platform. But here's my
Isn't that
example
what
is
isn't
that,
that what Kanye said about George Bush one time? You know, so
hey,
it's very similar, very similar. That's
I,
good.
I feel the same way about TikTok. But what I mean is, the nature of short form video is to mimic each other, right? So, Hill, if you do something cool, I can make a video and copy what you did, and it's cool too, right? And typically, what happens is those cool things are started by young black kids or young people in general, but mostly black kids. When those events, those skits, those dances, whatever those moments are, when they're copied by other creators that are not black on platforms like TikTok that are based off advertising, it behooves the platform to have very famous white people that mimic black people to be the ones that receive the most visibility, because that creates the most visibility for them to run ads and make money. You see what I'm saying? So that's the reason why black culture is exploited, because it's very, very, very profitable, but it's not profitable for it to be black led or black centric, right? I give the example of, if a network like ABC had all the most popular African American shows on television, so if it had Blackish, Insecure, Snowfall, Power, Real
The good guy. The
Housewives,
good
Love
guy.
and Hip Hop,
The good
it
guy.
would be a great show that people would watch, right? But it still wouldn't make the ad dollars that a network like NBC or ABC that had, Dancing with the Stars and
The good
American
guy.
Idol had. So it's all about advertising revenue. So without that advertising revenue,
Yeah.
it's just the way that black culture is positioned.
But isn't that an advertising ghettoization or undervaluation of the black community, black culture, black content? We all know that there is not pay equity, that deals that come along, whether they're even branding deals or whatever deals, they're always not equal. There's different,
Yeah.
all sorts of different things that come along, and advertising money runs different directions. So you think that platforms like Fanbase that allow the individual to go directly to the consumer will disrupt that very thing,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be an alternative, because a couple things. So just by sheer numerical numbers, there are more white people in the United States of America than black people. So as an advertiser, if I want to advertise a product broad, like if it is tennis shoes or if it's a certain food, you want to advertise to everybody. But if it's focused specifically on the African American community, sometimes people are turned away. That's why they make different tones of commercials for different people with different races in them. And so TikTok wants to have Charlie D'Amelio and Addison Rae and all the young stars that they have on the platform be the biggest, because there are more eyeballs that watch them, so then they can run ads. So
Understood.
that's the reason why, I say that it's that way. When you remove ads from the platform, which Fanbase doesn't have any ads at all, Fanbase allows people to create content and have subscribers directly to themselves, like they were Netflix, right? And so that changes the game, because it doesn't take a lot of people to subscribe to you for you to make an enormous amount of money, right?
Okay, but let me ask a question about that. Do you think that we're headed towards a place of, as we look into the future in terms of technology and monetization, where we're looking at subscriber overload? It's like, if you got Disney Plus, if you got
Yeah.
Netflix, if you got Paramount Plus, HBO Max, and you're paying Fanbase, you're paying, how many of these monthly charge types of accounts can we have for our social and entertainment as we look forward in terms of technology? Or are you saying that there is a future where, yes, Hill, we have all these bespoke things, but there'll be someday that, just like cable or whatever, DirecTV, they're going to bundle it all up, and you're going to be like, okay, you can get, I'm going to do a deal with Fanbase, I'm going to do a deal with HBO Max, and I'm going to do a deal with Paramount Plus. And so if those are your three, and ESPN, if those are your four, then boom, you can buy this bundle, and then all of a sudden you got those, but individually it'd be X, because you don't really watch Disney Plus anymore because your kids are grown, And what do you see as the future in that way? Because it's not sustainable to think that everyone's going to pay $2.99, $5.99 to 10, 20, 30 different platforms, right?
True, but the market hasn't been even tapped yet, right? So I think I asked you this question the last time.
And I got an answer for you. I know I probably didn't have one last time, but I got an answer this time.
So there's 6.3 billion people with smartphones on the planet, right?
Yes.
Out of the 6.3 billion people with smartphones, how many people do you think have Netflix out of 6.3 billion?
Oh, have Netflix?
Yeah.
Well, so, okay, I'm going to answer that from the economic perspective because, my whole, where I lean into things is from, economic justice standpoint. And I know that the vast majority of people in the world, the 99%, most folks don't have the $14.99 a month disposable for a Netflix account. So let's take it there. So 6.3 billion Netflix. There's like 330 million-ish people in the United States. Netflix is worldwide, but it's most penetration in the U.S. I would say that there's probably 30, 40 million, maybe 20 million Netflix accounts. I don't know. Worldwide.
It's way more than that. But out of everybody that could actually have Netflix, only 222 million people have Netflix, right? So,
and that's around the world.
So, yeah, out of all video demand services, there's only 425 million people with a video on demand service on their phone. There's only 525 million people with a music streaming service on their phone. And so when you think about the fact that there's 6.3 billion people around the planet, but only like 3 to 4% of them have video on demand services, as millennials and centennials grow older that are born into this culture, the number is going to only increase. And I talk about that from the perspective of two things I'm gonna talk about briefly. Everybody's been selling their music catalogs. And I've been like, man, like, why is everybody selling their music catalogs? And I'm like, for that very reason, when I did the research, I was like, it's only like 3% of people that could have music streaming services on their phones have them. Then couple that with the fact that copyright law just changed and increased the royalty rate, the mechanical royalty rate for songwriters and music publishers by 44%.
Wow.
So now, right, if you sold your catalog, 3 weeks ago, you could have sold it for 44% more. And I'm not selling like my dad's catalog, and I've never done a publishing deal. And so the reason they know that in 10 years, it's going to be 1 billion people on music streaming services. Plus that 44%.
Question. Let's think about that though. Yeah. Question, and this is interesting. So just as more people are adding the ability to consume it, because of many of these services are decentralized, you're adding more people that have the ability to distribute it, right? So, I think it was you mentioned certain ads. I think there was a Monster.com ad that was out years ago where they had like 2 professional tennis players playing and one hit a winner, and it said, it's easy to spot a winner when it's just 2 people playing, boom, or it's easy to spot talent, boom, hit a winner. But then they had all these people just rush the court, like hitting balls everywhere. And their point was, you wouldn't even know if someone's Serena Williams in that because there's so much chaos and white noise. Are we getting to a place where, since everybody's putting out content, everybody's creating content, goes back to an earlier question is the old stuff still going to have its relevant value when there's going to be so much more content available? So maybe these folks are selling their catalogs thinking, you know what? Right now, my catalog's perceived at extreme value because it's rare quality, whereas in the future, there's going to be so much stuff that sounds similar to it or blah, 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 blah. Let me make sure I cash out now. Is there any sense to that thought, or you think it's the reverse?
No, because I think you can't make another Isaac Hayes or James Brown or Tina Turner or Bruce Springsteen. I don't think those people are coming along again. They're one of one, right? And so those songs, like,
they're NFTs. They're human NFTs. They're human NFTs.
They're digital, like living and part human, part digital, infinite NFTs. Like one of the most licensed songs out of my dad's entire music catalog is a song he wrote in 1964 or 65, which is "Hold On, I'm Coming." And they licensed that song to this day. They're going to license that song for the next 20 or 30 years. They've been licensing it for 30 years now. It's some things that are made that was
what's the
always, you know.
part or the lyric that they license the most? Like
I mean, they always license the horns or the lyric, the ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-ba, the "Hold On,
oh yeah,
I'm
yeah.
coming." That's that you hear that, and then coupled with the fact that other artists have re-recorded that and done new versions of it. Like there's a new one that they use for like Godzilla and King Kong, and it's in Toyota Tundra commercials. But they just made that version in like 2019. So publishing is infinite. Publishing lasts forever. I call it musical real estate. It's yours until you sell it. So somebody can even come along and cover your song. So it doesn't matter if Justin Timberlake sells his catalog. If someone covers "Cry Me a River" 20 years from now, he's not going to get that money from that song because he sold the publishing. You see what I'm saying? So you hold on to that musical copyright, in my opinion. But again, the people that have done it, I think they did it for the reasons that they did. They're already wealthy people. They want to make investments and do things.
So tell me this, somebody who I have incredible respect for, and I just think he's a genius, and also is a contemporary artist, meaning he's still making hits. And that's John Legend, and he sold his catalog, right? So what would the thought process be? Because he is not. I mean, he's smart, right? So a lot of the other catalogs that are being sold are retired artists and folks who have kind of finished, creating new music. He's still in the midst of a extremely vibrant, top of his game career.
Right.
What would be the motivation for that then? Because he's a super smart guy, so he must be thinking of something else in the future.
Yeah, and the people that I talk to that are as smart and as talented as John Legend that have done those things, the number one thing is I would make that money over the course of my life till I'm like 70 or 80 years old. But I can take this money now, and then I can spread that out over investments. I can spread it out over tech. So if someone gives me $50 million, $100 million, I can take 20,000, 30,000, 15, 5,000. Because remember, Orrin Michaels only put $5,000 into Uber and made $24 million when it IPO'd in 2019. So as accredited investor. So it doesn't take a lot to win big in tech, especially if you get into funds with other people and you're linking up and you guys are, merging your
That's
your
why,
assets.
full disclosure, everybody, I am an investor in Fanbase. I have to say that, full disclosure, but that's not why we booked Isaac here. I invested in Fanbase before I even knew the brother. So because I believe in supporting black founders in tech. So that's real. That's real.
But John is a smart person, so I understand why those decisions are being made because, musicians get paid, over a long time. And then John Legend is an amazing performer, and you're always going to have that money. You're always going to be able to hit the stage and make that kind of money. So I understand the thought behind that. For someone like me, who my dad isn't here and can't hit the stage anymore, you see what I'm saying? And I have 10 other brothers and sisters, and to make sure that his legacy lives on and continues to do that. That's just a different decision that I have to make. When it comes to the distribution of assets of content, I mean, when we talk about, I ask people all the time, hey, do you have Netflix? And a lot of people say, yeah. And I said, how many shows on Netflix do you watch? And they go like 2 or 3. So you're telling me you pay, $14, $15, $20 a month to watch 2 shows. I watched Netflix for 2 things and 2 things only in the last year.
You don't have to tell your personal business. You don't have to tell your personal business.
No, but it's just Dave Chappelle's comedy special and Kanye West's documentary. And so my point is, why not I just subscribe directly to Dave Chappelle and subscribe directly to Kanye West? You understand what I mean? Why do I need to pay Netflix for all this content for $4.99 a month? I can subscribe directly to Dave Chappelle, and then Dave Chappelle can just put out comedy specials whenever he wants to, and I get the content that I want. So when you democratize distribution of content, you allow the user, the individual, to say, I want to subscribe to Beyonce, Dave Chappelle, the Los Angeles Lakers, and Nike. and I get the content, exactly the content that I want. I don't have to sift through all the content on Netflix. I don't have to sift through all the content on Hulu. I don't have to sift through all this other content that may or may not be something that I want to be. I'm entertained by exactly who I want to be entertained by. And people that are in those positions, especially musicians, actors, athletes, right? Name, image, and likeness, the ability for college kids to be able to create fan base pages and their fans can subscribe directly to them for their content. It's a leverage play. It changes the amount of leverage that individuals have to be able to, build wealth. Again, it only takes 5,000 people paying you $2.50 a month, right? That's $12,500 a month. That's $150,000 a year. And that's more money than like 96% of Americans make individually. Not a two-person household, but an individual American. You're making more. Only 5,000 people, right? So I know people with 1 million followers that are broke, right? I know people with 2 million followers on Instagram. They're trying to figure out how they can monetize and have a brand to pay them to post and all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, the platforms work against you for your visibility, but just all you need is 5,000 people, right? Or 50,000 people paying you that amount, $2.50 a month, right? That's $125,000 a month. That's $1.5 million a year. Just 50,000 people. So when you have 10 or 15 or 5 or 10 million followers, you could be making $1 million a year off 50,000 people, and that's an enormous amount of revenue.
Understood.
And now, a message from Lifelock.
No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock by Norton makes it easy to help protect yourself. So call 1-800-LifeLock or go to lifelock.com and use promo code 5Factor. That's lifelock.com, promo code 5Factor to save 25%. Protect yourself with LifeLock.
And now, back to 5-Factor Authentication with Hill Harper.
So let's talk about where we're headed. One of my favorite quotes is that Wayne Gretzky quote where, he would talk about he wasn't the fastest skater, he wasn't the biggest guy, but why was he so much better than everybody else? Because he wasn't just incrementally better, he was extremely better. And, he said everybody would skate to where the puck is, he would skate to where the puck's going to be. So in that context, where is the puck headed in terms of tech? In other words, what do you think is your and our future relationship with technology and what positive or negative about tech keeps you up at night? Like, where are we going?
Well, I think technology is going to take us from the billionaire era to the trillionaire era fast, right? And what I mean by that is the limitation that is put on by platforms on social media that allow people to connect to one another. And anybody can perform this exercise, right? Go to a very, very famous person with a lot of followers on social media. I could take someone like The Rock or Beyonce, and they might have 320 million followers. I think Beyonce has 230 or 260 million followers, right? But look at the unique views of her videos. It's like 6 million, 7 million. The reason is because her reach. Why would Instagram allow her to reach 6 million people when they pay brands to reach 6 million people? If Beyonce could reach 260 million, 230 million people every time she went live, or every time she posted a post, the brands would come directly to her and pay her and not pay Instagram, so therefore they would have no advertising business. So for that reason, they limit the visibility that any user on the platform gets. You, me, they're like, nah, we'll give you 6 million. We're not giving you 230. Right? Mm-hmm. So with fan base, that limitation is removed. So in the future, the unlimited potential of reach is incredible, because that means if you drop an album, if you put out a product, if you have anything that you want to sell, then there is no limitation on your reach, because I'm not limiting you because I'm trying to collect advertising. Ooh. Advertising is not part of my business. It's rev share. Yes. So you're looking at the future, you're looking at a connected world of people being able to transact with one another individually and not have to promote through social media platforms to get visibility to make money. It's just like, no, the people that rock with me, they subscribe to me, they buy from me, and I'm connected directly to them. And that is trillions of dollars globally, not billions of dollars. And that's the difference. That's where we're headed.
That is incredible. But but you're reminding me of a conversation that I had recently, and I was reading about online. Actually, there was a debate around that very issue of being able to manipulate people in misinformation, whether it's creating xenophobia, racism, misogyny, all of this
Absolutely.
cultish culture around misinformation. And if folks can just reach millions of people, billions of people,
Yeah.
with no check on what they're putting out, is that dangerous in the future? Is that
think-
are we? There's a lot of like libertarians who say, I mean, obviously this debate came up with Elon Musk and his relationship to Twitter and all sorts of things. And historically, you could say, well, the arbiters of information that were coming out was centralized, very centralized through certain points of view as well. So I get that. How do you think about that? And what are your thoughts? Do you think it should just be open playing field? People should be able to post whatever they want. And if folks aren't, if they're able to manipulate minds in a way to push people a certain direction, that's on people. What is how do you come down on that?
Well, with the limitations being released on fan base, it's still not a community that we want to allow people to promote hate or misinformation, right? That's not the purpose. The purpose is the ability for people to be able to subscribe to their talent, to their skill, to their trade. Now that can always be, everybody's always going to try to break the rules and do things like that. So someone that spreads misinformation on a platform like Fanbase will be somebody that won't be welcome, on the platform. We definitely don't want to censor people, but we definitely don't want to have a place where people can be dangerous and spread dangerous information. So, but again, I don't think that there's anything that can stop that. I don't think there's anything that's going to stop that because we're all connected.
So given the fact that we're all connected, how can people protect themselves online?
I mean, I think opting out of technology is something that people are going to have to do because it's a lot. It's very easy to hand a 3-year-old an iPad and walk away and say Coco Melon's going to take care of it all, right? But at some point you're not going to be able to do that, and even now you probably shouldn't be able to do that now because kids can find so many things. Like kids are smart. Like there's stories of kids purchasing like 99 burgers on on like DoorDash at like 3 and 4 years old. So kids are smart. So I think there's definitely going to have to be some parental observation of what goes on with your children because we're in such a connected world, but we'll also get used to that connectivity. I think that with great power comes great responsibility, as they say with Spider-Man. But so we're going to have to adjust to that type of power. There will be people that always try to manipulate that power, but think of the good that can be done with that type of reach, right? I say that in the sense of like the platforms like Facebook with Instagram combined made $115 billion in ad revenue in 2021. $115 billion. The effect of the communities of color that have had on the success of that platform, if they went to Facebook right now and said, hey, Facebook, since you're making like $115 billion a year, and a lot of this comes from young black kids creating content that allows you to advertise, how about you give $10 billion a year to the hood, right? I think Facebook would tell you to go away and continue to keep making the content that makes them rich. And so for platforms like Fanbase that allow that a black-founded tech startup that recognizes the platform is for everybody. So whoever becomes the most famous person on Fanbase is just that talented to do so. But understanding that the contributions that black culture make to social media, you please believe that when Fanbase is making $115 billion a year in revenue, and it will, that there will be significant portions of money brought back to inner city communities to help, pull people out of poverty, to help people get loans to buy houses, to help people, get off the streets and be able to be educated. So I've always had in my mind that technology can be a tool to empower people and uplift people out of poverty. Even the young kid that's in their bedroom right now that's poor, that becomes a phenomenal sensation on Fanbase and becomes a multimillionaire. That's the kind of ability that I want. I don't want these limitations put on any person for their talent or their skill to be able to do so.
Okay, so following that up, does fan base feel any responsibility to protect their users within the platform or through other tools to authenticate their identity, or even to
Yeah,
point out bullying or potential bullying or shaming or anything
absolutely.
like that? And how do you do that?
This is where I will give platforms like Instagram and TikTok grace. Manually moderating content is next to impossible when you have a billion people on the platform. But there are content moderation algorithms that get smarter and smarter every day, that can read text, that listen to what people are saying, that can tell the difference between a toy gun and a real gun. And so as those algorithms become better and they're implemented more and more, which fan base uses some now, but we'll continue to use more and more, you're going to have to moderate content through AI. Are we going to get it right all the time? No, but a lot of these companies that actually specialize in content moderation do have success rates of identifying negative content, negative speech, up to about 98% accuracy, 98.9. And so that's what AI, that's the gift
But
of AI and technology.
yeah, yes and no. I want to, because I want to go back to some point you made earlier. So, I don't have anywhere near the number of followers that The Rock, Beyonce. I have about 455,000 followers on Instagram as an example. But I've noticed, as I've started speaking out much more about Black wealth, about the racial wealth gap, about my platform, the Black Wall Street, etc., that my posts have gotten more and more and more limited in terms of their reach. When I was posting just about, the Good Doctor, my show, or some, whatever, it's a wider distribution of that post. And so it feels like maybe the algorithms grab things, but there's still not a nuanced notion. Oh, if there's something race baked into it, you limit it. But if there's something that is more general, you don't. Or I don't. To
Oh
be
yeah,
honest, since I don't know what's baked into those algorithms, but those
I'll tell
algorithms
you.
themselves are affecting our lives in so many ways that many of us may not even ever understand. Right?
I'll tell you right now. If I'm a major corporation, right? Let's say I'm a major conservative business that does not align with the LGBTQ community, right? I'm gonna hand Facebook a check to run ads, and I'm gonna lean over and say, I don't want any gay content running next to my ad. So what would Facebook do? They're going to turn the LGBTQ content down. They're going to turn the Black Lives Matter down. They're going to turn the racial equality content down. They're going to run those ads, and then when the ad is done, the ad spend is done, they turn the reach back up. It happens all the time during political season. You'll watch people that are that speak a lot about politics. Wait till these elections start, and election season starts in November. Your visibility and your reach is going to go next to nothing, right? They're going to smush you down, right? Because they're going to want to collect the money from the people that are going to serve ads and not want to disrupt that. So you are just a person that is speaking a language that advertisers don't want their ads running next to. When they're not paying, that's why I say we don't run ads. So it's not about fan. I don't what your voice is your voice, and what you want to talk about is that. But if there's a company that doesn't want any Black Lives Matter content running next to their ad, trust and believe Facebook's gonna say, we got you. We'll just turn that down for 48 hours, and then when your ad spend is done, we'll turn the Black Lives Matter back up. And that's what they get away with, because you complain about it, but then you look again and says, oh, my engagement is back. And so it's done very nuanced, but that's how they do it.
You hurt my feelings because you basically said, Hill, you're being turned down, and that hurts. It hurts me, but that's why I'm going to fan
Yeah.
base. So check it out. Now, since most of us live most of our lives online, I want to know how you protect yourself online. Like, what do you do specifically? What tools do you use? How do you approach protecting yourself? Because as you become a more visible figure, and your name is a household name, you are a target, right? And so, like
Yeah.
many people are targets, how do you protect yourself?
I mean, well, I think first and foremost, I try to limit my access, right? And that's just an understanding what you're building and how I protect myself. So I just limit the access that people have to me, right? And I'm just older now anyway, and I just kind of like chilling and being by myself, and I'm focused on what I'm building. Other than that, I think I have to watch what I say, right? You know, you can't. This isn't the days of where you know how tweets come back and haunt people from the past, right? You know, you have to understand that there are ramifications to the comments that you do make, especially as companies, tech startups venture into being publicly traded companies. And a good example of this, and it just seems very peculiar, but it's like the moment that Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter, all of a sudden his son is like, I don't want the Elon Musk name. I don't want to be associated with him. And then now it's like he's fathered 2 children by one of his top executives. Those are the kind of things. That's how you have to protect yourself. That you have to know. You can't. And I say this all the time. And I'm not saying that whatever relationship Elon Musk had with whatever employee he had, inappropriate or not, I often am frustrated with people that entertain mediocrity that seek greatness. And so that's just never going to be part of my programming, right? That's not, there's too much on the line for us to be able to achieve, and for fan base to be able to achieve as a company, for me to entertain mediocrity in that fashion. And I wouldn't do that. And that's how you protect yourself. Just understand that there's always someone looking for you to slip up and say the wrong thing so they can cancel you or whatever it is, right? And so that's the one thing that I think protects companies like TikTok, because it's a privately held company. They're not on the stock market. TikTok can do whatever the hell they want to do. They can tell black people, we don't like you, and leave, and nothing's going to happen other than they might lose users, but it doesn't affect the value of the company because they're a privately held company. So you can't really affect the value of companies like that. Now, publicly traded companies, you say the wrong thing and the stock price plummets, and then that's when changes happen. So staying private is always a good option, as a company, and I think TikTok has done well, and I think they put themselves in a bit of exposure by being a publicly traded company, if they decide to do so.
But before I'm about to ask you this kind of last 5-factor authentication podcast summary question, but before I do, I'm gonna wade into this is some tricky water, so I'm gonna go into. But you made
Okay.
me think of it with what you just said. I was recently having a debate, and I'm actually not going to mention the names. I'll just say 44 and 45. I was recently having
Right.
a debate about 44 and 45, and the group conversation was about squeaky clean and impact versus horrifically not squeaky clean, crimes, etc., but extreme impact and potentially extreme legacy impact, and ultimately, which is better? In this world where, yes, you can do things that are above reproach and live in a way that's seen beyond reproach and keep, but maybe there's no residual impact from that behavior, even though one wants to have that impact, versus live in a way that is slash and burn and cut and destroy. But what the resulting impact is years and years and years of undoing certain things and changing the future and having
Yeah.
impact well beyond your years. How do you come out as you see that? And then where does technology even fit into that kind of conversation?
Well, first, I think squeaky clean is just all. I mean, honorable, respectable, honest is always the best. Like, just live up to the best of your ability. I think the part that you're leaving out, and which is the uncomfortable conversation that people don't often have, is just white supremacy, right? So white supremacy is going to allow whatever behavior it needs to stay in power, right? It doesn't matter. You can be the baddest boy of all time. If you're going to make sure that you're upholding white supremacy, we don't care what you do, right? That's just how white supremacy works. Now, if we're honest with ourselves and say, what's written on the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence, white supremacy is in direct contradiction to that. So for the United States to live up what it is amended, what it is written, what it is intended, what it is said it is supposed to be, white supremacy can't exist. And so I think that's why you're seeing the favor that bad behavior gets, because there is a segment of the population that wants to maintain white supremacy and one that wants to live in an equal society where all things are equal for everybody and opportunity to do so. And those are going to be at odds for the next 20 or 30 years. And so that's what you're going to see. When I explain to people about voting, right, and not to go too far into politics, the reason why the Republican Party is so good at winning is because it's one goal, right? And so one goal has branches that are all still connected to upholding white supremacy. So that if that's Supreme Court justices, if it's getting rid of abortion, if it's looser gun laws, if it's stricter laws on immigrants, if it's, you know, police brutality for black people, bans for Muslims, and borders for Mexicans, all that falls under the premise of white supremacy. On the side of a very diverse and multicultural and multi-ethnic and multi-identity culture such as the Democratic Party, then we're always going to lose because everybody wants to get that one thing. And I use the example of if your vote was $1, right? If your vote was $1, the Republican Party, the new Republican Party, and there's Republicans that are going to believe what they want to believe and that are not aligned with white supremacy, but this new Republican Party, they're paying for white supremacy. So they put all their money. So if it takes 100 million votes to buy white supremacy, it's going to get purchased. On our side, if we're going to spend 20 million on LGBTQ rights, if we're going to spend another 15 million on abortion laws and another, 30 million on police reform, then we're going to lose. So that's what's going to happen when it comes to 44 and 45 and the legacies of good and bad behavior. I think how technology is going to improve that, and you see that trying to limit people from being able to just register to vote as soon as you get a driver's license. That's where technology is going to come into play. That's why voting is very, very important when it comes to technology, is the fact that, I can vote from home, or I can vote, by, I remember having a conversation with one of the candidates that was running for Secretary of State here in Georgia, and I was like, they had these voter ID laws that if the name wasn't perfect, right, if it wasn't perfect when you registered to vote, then you couldn't vote when you got up there your voting card. And I asked him, I said, well, why can't you just build an app and I can just scan my driver's license and then turn it over and scan it, and then I'm just registered to vote? And he was like, wow, that's a good ass idea. And those are the things that I think about technology. So it's like, right, you circumvent the system with technology to say, oh no, I'm perfectly registered to vote. My address is correct. This is my correct spelling of my name. This is who I am. This is my identity. And so, but as you see, the opposition is trying to limit those ways because in totality, a democratic society is exactly what the majority of Americans want. It's just that we all want to buy different things. And there's a smaller group of people that want to buy one thing.
Go to Memphis and go to the neighborhood around Stax Records and think of Memphis barbecue. And I think there's a great barbecue spot called Interstate Barbecue in Memphis, and there's some other really good ones. We're talking about technology in the future. At a certain point, there was this hotbed of culture in Memphis that was creating things that have impacted the world, around the world. How come that was stopped? In terms of how come now there's no tech company that's leading creation in Memphis, for instance, and these communities haven't continued to evolve in the same way. And now we look at cities like we have Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, we have Boston, Austin, Texas. We have these different places, Miami, where it seems like there's Atlanta, different bastions of tech and founders and all of these things happening in the future. Yet many of these places that were leaders years ago, particularly places where there are a number of people of color like Detroit, Memphis, and we can go on, have been left behind in many ways, and we don't have new tech companies, new companies coming, new creativity as much coming out of these places. And what does it remind you of when you think about Memphis? And is there a sense that maybe fan base is gonna headquarter, at least a co-headquarters in a place like Memphis, to honor that and create jobs there, et cetera, as you continue to grow. What are your thoughts about that? Because I always have an allure, and I think Justin Timberlake does owe you a check, because clearly he was watching and checking out your dad and being like, I'm from Memphis. I think I could do this. I could be the new Elvis. I could do this. And so, what is the feeling that comes up when you think about that, and your ability as you think in the future to impact the community, impact jobs, impact the future of cities that in many ways do have a struggle to their name?
I mean, I think it's the duty of someone that's in my position, right? And I think I can't be a black man and not want to see people like me succeed, because there's such a deficit in our community of access. When I think about Black Wall Street, like when I think about the places that had an opportunity to really, formulate and build their own communities and then watch them destroyed, it is definitely a passion of mine, to be able to do that. And I think it's totally like necessary, and it's the duty of anyone that is blessed as we are, to make it, from impoverished communities like my dad and lifestyles of struggle, to make sure that you give back. I think the enormous respect that I have for individuals like Nipsey Hussle, who stayed in his community as his success continued to grow, and the unfortunate passing of Nipsey Hussle, of him being in the community, because a lot of times people say that's why you leave the hood, right? But there's still a responsibility and a duty to make sure, because we can't leave those communities behind. Love and access to capital and opportunity and education are the only things that are going to be able to bring those communities out of the systems and the circumstances that they are in. So I feel a mission to be able to do that. Like, if not, if not me, or if not anybody, any person that is blessed with the ability to one day be a billionaire and a multi-billionaire, I think that should be exactly what they do. And I know several people that do those types of things. And so my mind is always on our people, because I understand how much I understand, especially African American culture. I say this all the time, like, African American culture is the youngest and smallest culture group on the planet Earth. We're like 600 years old. We're right here in America. So we're not even like, we're a subculture of another culture, but we're the most influential. So we have to be mindful of that power. That power is like it is our vibranium. It is so valuable, but yet we don't understand that we give it away all the time. So I'm mindful about.
That's incredible you say that. I always say that we are digital citizens, and understanding our power as digital citizens is incumbent upon us, or we end up doing the exact same thing, replicating itself by, and what you just said, giving away work product for free. And
Yes.
in the past, we didn't give it away. I mean, it was clearly forcibly taken.
Absolutely.
But exactly.
So yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I think about. I'll say this real quickly, is like, and this is what I mean, and this is to anybody that watches this, is that black culture innovates at a speed and a pace that we don't know what we're building, and we're building industries. We're freestyling billion-dollar industries, right? And I use the example of Grandmaster Flash. I've said this a million times. The moment that Grandmaster Flash DJ'd on 2 turntables and a mixer, somebody should have leaned over to him and said, "Don't show a mother what you just showed me. We need to go learn how to make turntables and mixers, because everybody that's going to do this is going to need that. If you don't own the infrastructure, you don't own anything." And so fast forward to 2022, Pioneer, Technique, Serato, they own DJ culture. Grandmaster Flash invented it, but they're making all the money off his invention. And so we have to be mindful of doing that. So that's why I say, with social media, black culture is the economic engine of social media. It's the gasoline, but the vehicle's not owned by black people, right? So we the gas, but we not the car. So fan base is the car that is owned by African American people. So we're not leaving black people behind. Everybody gets to ride in the car. Everybody gets to go. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what gender, what religious background, sexual orientation. We all get to ride together. And some of these other major tech corporations, black culture is left like, thanks for filling up the car, kids, and they pull off and they leave everybody in the dust. Wow. And so that's not going to happen with Fanbase. We're all going together. Everybody's in the car. Everybody get in. We all going together.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Okay, as we close out five-factor authentication, I want to ask this question to you, Isaac Hayes III. What are the 5 most important factors that help you live fully in the real world?
Honesty, self-aware, persistent, grounded in faith, and a good person.
You know, those were wonderful 5. Thank you. They remind me of the affirmation I'm currently having my son do. And it goes something like this. I'm having him say, I'm handsome, I'm smart, I am safe, I am free, I don't need to be like them, I just need to be like me. And I want to be like you, Isaac Hayes III. You are an inspiration to me and so many others. And I appreciate what you're building and you've built and continue to do. And in any way I can be supportive of you, please let me know. And everybody who is listening to us right now or watching us right now, please download Fanbase, download the app, start understanding how it works, start getting into it. Find people that you like on there, follow them, support them on the app. If you are a creator or if you feel so moved, get on that app and start creating your own audience. Do all of these things and support this app, support this man. And again, so appreciative for you coming on here. 5-factor authentication. We love you and we thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Social media lets us connect with the world, but it does come with risk. It is important to keep your personal information and accounts safe from the wrong hands. Your own account might seem too small to tempt scammers, but even with just a few followers, your information is a valuable commodity. Visit 5factorauthentication.com/Isaac Hayes 3 for social media security tips to keep you safer.
Wow. Talking to Isaac Hayes III just blew my mind. I mean, think about it. And I've had to really just sit back for a second and really think about what my 5-factor takeaways are from that conversation. Here they are. Factor 1, everyone has a why. Okay, going all in on tech is not just for those with the love for algorithms and coding. It's a direct path to advancing whatever you care about substantively, whether it be music or serving your community or founding a crypto exchange, whatever that is, you can do it. Factor 2, some doors are closing, but bigger ones are opening. Automation is, in fact, eliminating jobs. We all know that. We see it happening. But these are being offset by newer, better opportunities. Virtually anyone can start a business today. The tools and information are available for individuals to directly monetize their skills right now. If you got an idea, you can move on it. Factor 3, you have to understand how it works. The business models underlying the apps and platforms we have greater consequences than just bringing in revenue for the companies. They have profound effects, sometimes intentional, sometimes not intentional, on what content gets the most visibility, what kind of news and information we have, and equity of all those content creators. All of those things are impacted. Factor 4, value is on the rise and on the move. What does that mean? We are likely moving from the billionaire era to the trillionaire era. And as people have greater power to curate what they consume, costs will become unbundled and decentralized, and more people will be able to afford to start paying in smaller increments for very specific things that they want, ultimately driving revenues up. But the money will also flow away from the big centralized companies towards individual creators, spreading it out more. That means there's opportunity. Factor 5, the responsibility is on all of us. As our lives and work are more interconnected, it is incumbent on all of us to take responsibility for our collective protection and advancement. And while tech may be a part of the problem in terms of hacking or disinformation or loss of privacy, it can also be part of the solution. With so many new tools and AI-based content and different things like that, it just needs to get a little more nuanced first. Those are my 5-factor takeaways from the really enlightening conversation I had with Isaac Hayes III on new social media platforms and how they're changing the game for creators. Thanks for listening. And make sure you follow 5 Factor Authentication Podcast